if you want to know how much that animation really means so much to me when I had passion for it while watching cartoons, when HBO Max actually meant something before it turned just only into Max, with so many terrible decisions in the Warner Brothers Discovery Company, I really got the impression that this episode, after watching it, it really feels way more accurate to wrap up Halloween Mania 2, mainly the fact when it comes to the final minutes of the episode. And believe me when I say this, is that close enough being from the same people who did Regular Show, while Regular Show is getting a revival slash reboot. The executives who canceled this show really did this show dirty in one of the most worst ways. Like, it may be a good thing that Regular Show is returning after so many years, but with this show officially getting canceled to the point that there's no continuation, no respect towards this show, not to mention it's no longer on HBO Max, or in this case Max, which I'm never going to get over the name change. I would have been extremely devastated if I actually enjoyed this show without even getting into Regular Show if I had the chance. Because as far as I'm concerned, this episode from beginning to end, there was so much passion into it and so much creativity, and if I had to choose this over the Velma show, I would definitely choose this show. That's how much I really appreciate the creativity of this episode, and one of the examples of wrapping up this entire Halloween Mania, mainly the fact that the clip that I saw involving the final minutes of this episode really got me so invested. But let's go talk about the episode and the first 3 stories before we get into the final minutes of the episode. Halloween Enough starts off with the characters preparing to go trick-or-treating, but apparently due to a storm, they decide to tell scary stories with each other, which leads to 3 stories. Josh's story is Margarita Vampires, while Margarita Vampires turn Alex a vampire. Bridget's story is Haunted House, while the place that she moved into is haunted, obviously, but at the same time, with her point of view, she makes the story a lot more entertaining for how she enjoys her house being haunted. And for the type of character she is, it's no surprise that I'm starting to be one of her internet followers, if you know what I mean. And Emily's story is the magic pumpkin that wanted to kill Cadence, which, judging by that title, it's no surprise that the third story is a little over the top when it comes to Emily's point of view, but let's be real, it's also violent considering that this is for teenagers. And even though that Regular Show is for teenagers, but when it comes to the rating for both shows, Regular Show is PG, while Close Enough is TV-14. I was aware of the references of alcohol while one of the main characters were drinking alcohol, and the fact that Josh fooled the Margarita vampires that they were drinking alcohol even though they were not, which causes them to get destroyed. And also the swearing, which I'm fully aware of the fact that the characters swear in this episode. Getting back on topic, I really enjoyed the execution of all 3 stories, of them being their own thing in comparison to the Regular Show Halloween episodes. Like, the Margarita Vampires story was honestly entertaining on the fact that Alex is trying to scare his friends even though it's not working out whatsoever. Not to mention that he's not the best vampire on scaring people, including on the fact that his way of being a vampire only grows out his friends rather than making them feeling paranoid. It's not until the Margarita vampires get into action which led to Josh and his friends teaming up to stop them. Even though that Regular Show can do so many things, at the same time, when it comes to limitations, Close Enough can instantly bypass those limitations with it being a TV-14 show. And every time I look at this character's face, due to him being a lot more terrifying with different abilities as a vampire, I can't imagine what the other vampires in this story would have done if we actually see more of them, with the story itself from Josh's point of view being longer than others. But then again, we wouldn't be able to get the other stories. Bridget's story is so entertaining to the point that this will never work in the Halloween stories in the regular show episodes, and I've only watched the first two. Like, if this actually ends up happening in the regular show episodes of Halloween, then I'm pretty sure it wouldn't work out when it comes to the type of characters from that show. Bridget, with her being a social media star, I can understand that social media stars' plots can really make a sub-story a lot more entertaining and a lot more amusing when it comes to the execution and the direction. Ludwig was the person who used to own this house, but when people were making fun of him, he is so upset and depressed that his ghost or soul escapes him, and he haunts anyone no matter what. I would say that Bridget is the type of character that can make any horror-related story into a vision that can be a lot more unique, but at the same time, if any other person would see Bridget as this inspirational storyteller, then she would have come up with more stories rather than one. And when it comes to her relationship with Alex, after looking into it more when it comes to the final episode of this show where the two get back together, I had low expectations and impressions when it comes to these two in the relationship. I'm just saying, I know looks aren't everything, but I didn't like Alex's design in comparison to Bridget, who is hot, obviously. And even though that in the final episode, it does showcase the two getting back together with Bridget having feelings towards Alex, despite breaking up when it comes to a divorce. But I just feel like that every time I look at this episode, it really feels like that Bridget is trying to move forward with her life, even though all of it was taking place in her story, while Alex really feels like that we're supposed to view him as the lazy person, even though it wasn't really the case when I watched more clips. I'm just saying, just because what I view from this show isn't like everyone else doesn't automatically mean that I just see the same direction as what people see from this show in the same scenarios as other directions from other shows. I'm just pointing that out there. I'm just saying that I'm not against the relationship, I'm just not into literally everything when it comes to the characters. Emily's story is, well, she wants to scare Kansas so much because Kansas wants a scary story. She didn't find the other two stories scary. So when it comes to Emily's point of view on her story, she really tries to hammer it in on scaring Kansas by having the magic pumpkin literally trying to kill her. But considering it didn't work out, mainly the fact that Emily made Cadence kill the magic pumpkin. If Emily called the pumpkin anything but magic pumpkin, then I'm pretty sure it would have at least scared Cadence, although I'm not making her kill it. Though let's be real, the ending of this story where they use Alex's head for a pumpkin craving, even though it's not really a pumpkin, while winning third place is honestly really amusing, to the point that this will never work in regular show whatsoever. But since we reached to the final minutes of this episode, we come to why I wanted to review this episode, all the while concluding Halloween Mania 2 with it. If this entire episode is all part of Cadence's nightmare, Well, the last 3 stories were all part of her dream, and then she gets teleported into the building of Cartoon Network Studios. Yes, I'm not exaggerating. This is actually part of the episode, which I'm pretty sure that if any other Cartoon Network show did this, well, aside from Chowder, of course, they wouldn't be able to succeed with this type of execution in the same ways as what Close Enough did. Cadence realized that she isn't real, and when she witnessed the voice actors voicing the characters, all the while heading out of the building of Cartoon Network Studios, it reached to the point that she is too afraid that she doesn't exist and she doesn't know who she is, due to so much confusion of the nightmare, all the while having people gang up on her because they were familiar with her when it comes to the Close Enough TV show. Honestly, this is basically children trauma that really made me see the viewpoint of children trauma than anything else, because for how we see some occasions, which isn't saying much considering that in some cartoons, well, they have cartoon characters come out to the real world by doing stuff like this, they're not really afraid of taking liberties, as in having the characters interact. Mainly the CN City thing, where the characters interact with each other, which does make sense when it comes to Cartoon Network being the biggest when it comes to cartoons in the 2000s. And when it comes to this, well, a character who isn't afraid of the 3 stories, and then when she is afraid that everyone is gone, all the while getting teleported to Cartoon Network Studios building, while having fans gang up on her, when it comes to admiring her. Believe me, it's difficult to think clearly with so much going on having the only person who doesn't exist and questioning their logic is yourself is really terrifying, and no other cartoon character will ever go through what Kansas went through in her nightmare. But considering that the major reason onto why I decided to review the episode all because of the ending of the episode, it really made me feel like that Close Enough had so much potential on being its own thing. And with it being cancelled, it really feels like that this show is still brand new, with it being a 2020s cartoon. But with 2020s being the worst decade for animation is really saying a lot when it comes to how, after watching this episode, I really wanted to watch more of this show whenever I get the chance. But it's one of the reasons onto why it's difficult for me to get into other cartoons that I've stopped binge watching due to the situation of what's going on when it comes to animation. Look, I know that at times animation isn't really dead when it comes to indie animation, but when it comes to animation from mainstream services, this is what really got me to the point of not giving animation a chance, which put me in a bad state. And even though I'm never going to be in that position that Cadence is when it comes to hoping a fictional character, which is saying a lot considering she's a cartoon character, I still feel like that I would have gotten into the show if animation was treated respectfully when it comes to main streaming services, mainly HBO Max. And to tell you the truth, just saying Max just doesn't feel really cool in comparison to HBO Max, even after almost a year and a half. It's annoying, but still depressing to the point that positivity just gets killed with every single time negativity gets in the way. And every time I think about the final minutes of this episode, it really made me feel like there could have been a lot more promising execution when it comes to newer shows that are rising from the ground up. And the fact that months ago, well, Pixar are planning on making sequels rather than original movies when it comes to an interview. the entire animation industry is mostly out of their mind whenever they think of using original IPs rather than coming up with newer ideals, which of course it's difficult to have a newer audience for a newer fan base, but at the same time, this is an example of what a show can do on its own by impressing an audience from a regular show by forming its new audience. Well, people can still be happy at the end of the day. Not everyone can be happy, it's not possible, but at the same time, I really feel like that with this show not having any continuation along with other shows, it's really difficult to continue on with the binge watch that you're currently on due to everything going on that is coming into your head, that it's difficult to process the qualities of the cartoon while it's catered towards an older demographic. Well, close enough fits in that category. This is a half Halloween / animation situation for me at least, but if you really ask me, what the Halloween / horror episode or anything I can wrap up for this month, because I'm pretty sure I'm not gonna be doing the Halloween Mania again next year due to me using so many ideas, and it was a really difficult time to put everything together, all the while finding the episodes that suit for this marathon. And you can pretty much accept the fact that Halloween Mania happened twice, while everything else, mainly the other holiday schedules, are pretty much died down or having shorter schedules in comparison to Halloween Mania. This episode has to be one of my favorite Halloween episodes, and I really wanted to give Close Enough a chance after watching this episode. So, if you ever think of how I'm so passionate with animation when it comes to different techniques, then you really need to understand how this episode instantly changed my perspective on this show, since I wasn't really invested with this show to begin with. Granted, it takes time for people to get into a show, but when you get the details of the show's cancellation, it just becomes a lot more difficult to find any qualities in the show. This is one of my favorite Halloween episodes in recent time, and a great and interesting twisted way to wrap up Halloween Mania 2. Honestly, there is a chance I might watch episodes from this show and might make a couple reviews out of it, but who knows. You guys have a great Halloween, and we're finally getting back to regular schedules after so many months. Obviously, this could happen again, but this is honestly the best I can do when it comes to doing so many things, all the while postponing other projects in the process. So with that being said, I'll see you guys in November, and have yourselves a happy Halloween. I'm giving this episode a 9.5 out of 10.